Sports Barn. It's Tuesday, August 25th, and we're here to talk some NBA. As we may not have noted to you, we are Philadelphia 76er fans here, if by no other reason, by birth, by geographic location. We're kind of forced to be Sixer fans as we're in the Philadelphia market. And we always have been, for the most part, Sixer fans. This past, weekend, the Celtics, our hated rival, finished defeating the Sixers in a sweep 4-0. And that finally has led to the firing of long-tenured coach Brett Brown. So, what do I think of all this? Well, let me tell you. I want to tell you. Where are my notes? Here they are. Look, I saw this coming years ago. I knew that this team, and when I saw this coming, the loss to the Celtics, as I told you before the series started, take the Celtics, ride them every game, just play them. Lay whatever points you got to lay. Doesn't matter, hurt, not hurt, who's in, who's out. The Celtics are going to win. And of course they did. They covered 3 out of 4 games. How did we know this? We know the Sixers are a bad organization. Let me tell you how I know this. All right, so give you some Philadelphia Sixer history here. And God, it's such a star-crossed organization, but we've always loved the Sixers, Bobby Jones, Dr. J, Mo Cheeks, Charles, Chuck, things didn't end exactly well with us and Charles Barkley, but we loved him, just the same. Allen Iverson, we've loved everything Sixer related. Always loved that team. They kind of fell on some hard times after the Iverson years were over. I had season tickets to that team. My notes say 2009 and 2010. I just got sucked into the hysteria. They had some good young players and were going to make a max contract deal, and everybody was talking about how it was going to go for us just the way it went for the Celtics. They were pretty crummy, and then they just went out and signed Kevin Garnett, and boom, instant championship. So I drank the Kool-Aid to my regret. I had tickets for 2 years. They weren't good. The Sixers just simply, it didn't work. Elton Brand was our huge signing. He just wasn't very good. And the Sixers weren't very good. So I had the season tickets for the 2 years. I went to as many games as I either wanted to or could, and just sold the unused tickets on the open market, StubHub or eBay, the ones I didn't use. So that was, my first introduction to the Sixers. So then, Joshua Harris, he's the current owner, him and a number of other guys, but Harris is probably the main guy. He buys the Sixers from Comcast, my notes say here about middle of 2011, for basically a cheap price. Now, who's Joshua Harris? He's in his mid-50s, born into a rich family, went to all the right rich places, $40,000 a year, high school, Ivy League education at Penn, Wharton School of Business, gets his MBA, I believe, at Harvard, and then, right to Wall Street to, make his fortune. With, that kind of background, you got the keys to the kingdom background, so you're really going to have to screw up hard to fail with that kind of resume. And he didn't fail. He went to Wall Street and made a mint. I think his biggest score, he basically created his own hedge fund. A hedge fund is a couple of guys that get together and raise a bunch of money off of other rich people and bet their money for them on the Wall Street casino. I believe Harris's specialty was distressed assets, basically. He made his biggest score, apparently one of the biggest scores ever on Wall Street, by investing heavily on a chemical company called LyondellBasell. I think it's, or I'm sure I mispronounced that. It's like a merged company, one of these huge conglomerates that didn't exist 20 years ago. Lyondell was a Dutch company. Basell, or do I have that backwards? Lyondell was a company in Houston, I think. Basell was a company from the Netherlands. They got merged together sometime in the mid-aught decade, right before the collapse, and then whoop, went into bankruptcy in the collapse because they had way too much debt. So as they're going into bankruptcy and in bankruptcy, Harris steps in and just starts buying up their debt for pennies on the dollar, I guess knowing that the debt was going to be made good in some fashion. And he was right. The company emerged from bankruptcy in 10 or 11, and then now it's one of the best, biggest, most powerful chemical companies in the world. And Harris cashed out in 14 for a fortune, an absolute, billions and billions and billions. He made his hedge fund customers lots of money. He made himself lots of money. So that's kind of where his money comes from. He's a hedge fund guy. So he steps in and buys the Sixers for a song in the summer of 2011, $280 million. I mean, for an NBA team. I mean, I don't care who that NBA team is. It could be the freaking Memphis Grizzlies, whoever. That's cheap. So kudos to him. So then, within a year or two, they start what you may have heard as the process. And I'm sure the process in other NBA circles is a joke. In Philadelphia, it's like a religion. You're either pro-process or anti-process. You either believe Jesus got hung on the cross or you don't. It's one or the other. You either believe in the process or you don't. So the process basically is let's lose on purpose, strip everything down to the studs, lose on purpose, and just accumulate a ton of damn draft picks, and we'll just draft the next LeBron, we'll draft the next Tim Duncan, we'll draft the next Michael Jordan. How easy is that? Seemingly. That's how easy it is. So that's what we do. We lose on purpose. In 2014, 19 wins, 2015, 18 wins, 2016, 10 wins. They played 80-some games. We won 10 of them. That was when the NBA stepped in and said, you guys got to start trying to win here. This is not acceptable. Believe it or not, the NBA does have the power to direct its teams to do certain things. It's not, how to say this, you belong to a club. You do have certain property rights. I own the team. I can do whatever I want, within reason. In other words, I have 31 other members of my club, and if they don't like what I'm doing, they're part owners with me, basically, and they have a say in it too. They can say, you're costing us all money and making the whole league look bad. This is not good for the league. You can't do that. So the other owners and the Commissioner Silver at this point start pressuring Harris. It's like, you guys got to start trying to win. This is not acceptable. This just losing on purpose, endlessly losing, just fleecing the fans of Philadelphia with some pie in the sky promise of unbeatable 75-win teams in the future. So at this point now, the Sixers do attempt to start winning and stop stockpiling injured high-pick draft picks who never play until some point in the appointed future. So 17, this is when they finally give one of their superstar prospects, Joel Embiid, actually gets on the court for 30 games. And I saw one of these games, and I remember it. I was, I don't know where we were. I think the wife and I had just gone out and about for a Saturday night, and we're at a bar, and they have the NBA game on in the background, and I just was kind of watching it, and I'm thinking, that place is sold out. I mean, it's like middle of February. The team has maybe, I don't know, 20 wins. I mean, they're an up the track bad record, way below 500. But Embiid was playing, and they weren't playing LeBron or well, it would have been LeBron back in those days, the biggest draw in the league. They weren't playing him. It was just a run-of-the-mill Eastern Conference team like Miami, and the place was packed. It was packed, and I thought to myself, that looks exciting. The people are onto this. They are buying this. They are into the process. Maybe there's something here. Maybe I should be into the process. So I called the Sixers the next week, and the next thing you know, I bought season tickets. You know, they weren't that expensive. You know, it wasn't that hateful. I figured, you know, with that kind of a sellout, the games I can't get to, which would be most of them, you know, we'll just sell them on the open market to make the investment palatable, to make it work. And I was right about that. The next year comes, and now Simmons is on the court, and you know, this team is exciting. It's a good up-and-coming team, and I'm all on board, man. I am. Sam Hinkie died on the cross for my sins, man. I am all in on the process. This is great. I got season tickets. This is great. Yeah, I always had this little sneaking feeling in the back of my head. There was always something a little slippery about the Sixers. Just, you know, the way they go about the business, the way they kind of, you know, the whole process itself was just always a little slippery. Something never quite sat right with me, with these guys. Just, you know. So here it's March, and, you know, we're a month from the playoffs, and I'm starting to think, you know, I haven't heard from these guys. I mean, they should have by now contact me and let me know all the details about playoff pricing and all that sort of thing. Details on when and where the playoffs are, and you know, I owe them money. You know, I got to pay for the playoff tickets. That's not part of the season ticket pricing. You pay for the playoffs separate. I haven't paid them yet, so I'm kind of like, well, I haven't heard from them. I guess maybe I should call them. I don't know. So, you know, made a couple calls to these guys, just saying, hey, I haven't heard from you guys, and I got the runaround. My little rep, you know, he wasn't available. You know, not available. You know, this went on for a day or two, and then I got a call back from him, and here it's a manager, like their ticket sales manager or something, some guy I've never talked to, and he says, we're not renewing your tickets. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like shocked. I'm just like, he said, yeah, you know, this isn't a good fit. You know, you just haven't been to enough games, and you know, we're just we have 10-game packages if you like, but you know, we're not renewing your season package. And I was just dumbfounded. You know, it took me about 10 minutes, and then I got angry. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Where's this coming from? You know, and then we started arguing about what was a sufficient number of games to attend. You know, it's a 2-hour ride for me down to the arena. If everything goes right and all the lights are green, and the traffic is relatively light, I can make it in about an hour and a quarter, which is never. You know, it's almost always hour and a half, 2 hours, mostly 2 hours. And I'm working full time. You know, we're getting older. It's hard to get people to get the hell out of the house and go anywhere. So, you know, life just eats up your time. So I was able to get, as the argument went, I was able to get to 8 of those games during that season. There's 41 home games? I got to 8 of them, and there was still a handful left to be played in the regular season. And apparently that was insufficient. Now, this has never been discussed at any point ever with me. In other words, when the little sales girl was selling me these tickets, she didn't say, now look, you got to make sure you get to a certain number of games. That's part of the deal. You got to attend these games or we'll pull your tickets. Nothing like that was said. Oh my God, no. Never do they say anything about this. So I'm just going crazy. I'm like, I don't understand this at all. Why are you doing this? Well, we have our reasons. Why? It's like, I don't understand this. I threatened to get a lawyer. I threatened to go to the TV stations. Then he backed off and said, well, I'll let you keep some tickets, but you got to attend more games next year. And then it was a circular argument. Well, how many games? I don't know. Well, is half? Well, I don't know. Half? Yeah, maybe. Well, what guarantees do I have that you won't do the exact same thing? None. And then they top it all off. The playoff tickets that had been promised to me, and playoffs are almost here. This is a team that could possibly go to the NBA Finals. So where are my playoff tickets? That's part of the deal. That I have paid for all these tickets. This is part of the contract. Where are my playoff tickets? Well, we already sold your seats. Those are gone. Those have already been sold. I can't give you those. But you can sit way up in the nosebleed sections. We can put you up there. I'm like, well, how's that right? How's that fair? He's like, so I take it or leave it. I just could not believe this. Bait, switch, unbelievable. Now, as I thought, as I calmed down over the next few days, I gave it some thought. And the Sixers at the time, and I'm sure they're still doing it, they were using what they call dynamic pricing for their tickets. In other words, the tickets, when you go to buy tickets on the Sixers games, you go to, at the time, I don't know if it's still the same way, probably is, you go to StubHub's website, and whatever the market price is for that ticket, plus StubHub's outrageous fees, that's your ticket price. Traditionally, you think of, they have rings of seats in a stadium, and you say, okay, well, give me 5 of the $20 tickets, or I want 2 of the $100 tickets down there in the lower bowl. No, that's not how the Sixers do it. They basically, this enables them to charge more for the popular games where, I want to see LeBron, so that ticket's $500 because everybody wants to see LeBron. Whereas in a cheap Tuesday night game, maybe that same seat might go for $75. So my thinking was, well, the Sixers just didn't want the competition. In other words, I'm not getting to enough games. I'm selling the tickets just like they are on StubHub, and they don't want me competing with their tickets. I'm driving the price down. They want less tickets on the secondary market so they could jack up the price. It's like, all right, I mean, again, Mr. Wharton, Joshua Harris, kudos to you for, finding a way to max out your, dollar. And that's when it occurred to me that that's all this team's about, is the dollar. They actually had an agreement with StubHub to exclusively sell their tickets through StubHub. The president of StubHub at that time was that guy, Devin Wenig. Now look him up. Look him up under cyber stalking. This guy was wrapped up in an event here in the past year or two where he directed his little minions to go forth from their eBay headquarters. eBay and StubHub used to be, eBay used to own StubHub. They did when all of this episode happened in 2018. He directed his little minions to go forth from the eBay headquarters and stalk a blogger who they didn't like. Somebody who was writing things that were negative about eBay. It's a crime. They were committing, he directed his people to go commit crimes. They were indicted for felonies. Crazy shit, like, leaving a dead animal on this guy's porch. I'm making this stuff up on the fly because I can't quite remember. I do remember one thing was, I think they sent him a book. They sent the blogger a book, and it said, the title of the book was, How to Deal with the Loss of a Loved One. It's like, I guess that'd be funny. You know, to me that's kind of funny, but I didn't get it. I'm not the one being harassed. I'm not the one being threatened. So I'm sure it was not funny to the blogger who they were trying to bully out of business. That is who Joshua Harris was partnered up with. The worst part for me, after, you know, I came to terms with the fact that this ride to the end of the process that I had bought into and, you know, had prayed to the gods of the process, that I was thrown out of the church and I was no longer allowed to go to the services for the process. It was, I don't know, I've never gotten divorced, but it almost felt like that. You know, it was like, man, I thought you loved me. I thought our relationship was here. I thought it was us through thick and thin, and now I find out you're just a cold, calculating, cheating bitch. I was just, you know, crushed. It's like one of my top 4 sports teams just cheated on me. They just threw me over. I couldn't believe it. And to this day, the Sixers are dead to me. They're dead to me. If that team got into the finals, I still don't know if I would root for them. I just, you know, every time they lose, they just prove to me what I knew was explained to me in March of 2018. We're a bad franchise. We fuck our fans over, and we don't care. All we care about is this. We could give a shit about winning. Joshua Harris owns the New Jersey Devils. He bought them after. The Sixers were first, then he bought the New Jersey Devils. He more or less owns Crystal Palace. That's an English soccer team. And now he's got a little slice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, 5% or so, and he's looking to buy the New York Mets. Now, how many hours are there in the day? How can this guy care anything about any of these teams? How can he find time to try to get any of them to win? He can't. You know, it's all it is just a business meeting for him, maybe once a week or once a month. How are the Sixers doing? Well, our numbers are this and that, and okay, that sounds good. Make sure you keep squeezing those ticket prices. Let's keep maximizing the dollar. You know, they were so certain that that team was going to be an explosive winning machine that they could afford to just screw their season ticket fans over. They don't need season ticket fans when there's a line of 50,000 people out the door waiting to buy tickets. Now, I'm curious how many people are waiting out the door to buy these tickets now that the process has been exposed for the fraud that it is. Brett Brown, gone. You know, that guy was in town for 7 years, couldn't make the Sixers win. In fairness to Brown, you know, hamstrung with idiotic bosses. Brian Colangelo, that was Josh Harris's bright move, bringing him in. This is a guy that got himself fired because he had a second Twitter account. I guess they call that a burner account, where, you know, everything I want to say as a public figure, but can't because I'd be run out of town. If I told you what I really think about some of my players, I'm putting it out through my burner account. What are you, 13? You're a fucking general manager of a major sporting team, a high-paid executive, and you're acting like a teenager. Unbelievable. Who does this? Or more accurately, who hires people that do this? So, you know, Brown had terrible management. Then they threw Elton Brand in the position. No front office experience whatsoever. And he's made a mess of things. Just moving contracts here, there, everywhere. You know, Jimmy Butler, they trade for him. They have him in town for like half an hour. They spend a bunch of assets to get him. He's in town for like half a season. And basically then Butler says, you know, thanks, but no thanks. You're a mess. I don't want any part of this. And the Sixers basically agreed. They're like, Yeah, you don't pray at the process church. You're too difficult. You want to win now. You want us to do things like play good basketball. You're not worshiping in the church of the process. We don't want you. He's in the quarterfinals now. He's in the quarterfinals, and we're at home. You know, we all laughed when he went to Miami. What are you going to Miami for? They're not the process. They don't have Embiid and Simmons. Boy, what a joke you are. Ha ha. Yeah, guess who's laughing now? Jimmy Butler. So, I knew it in March of 18 that this team was a fraud. You know, I guess what else to wrap this up here? One other thing on Joshua Harris here. In March, when the pandemic struck, the Sixers informed their employees they're all going to take a pay cut because, of course, there was no basketball being played. And then, of course, you know, that got out. Not only are they cheap, they're stupid. You know, that's the... I don't know if stupid's the right word, because they pay no price for it. Maybe arrogant. They're not stupid because they pay no price for it. You know, there are no consequences for what would appear to be stupidity. In other words, we're going to do something cheap and crummy here. We're going to cut everybody's pay, even though there's no reason to. I mean, we can afford it. We can afford it with our little finger. But then we get outed. You know, Joel Embiid goes out on the media and says, I'll pay for it. I'll pay for, you know, lost wages. And then the Sixers are shamed into saying, oh, we made a mistake, we'll pay it. You didn't make a mistake. You know, a mistake is you forget your wife's birthday or something, or you trip over a root. That's not a mistake. You meant to do that. You meant to do it, and you didn't think you'd get caught. You cheap scumbag. But, you know, that's the Sixers. That's who they are. They could give a shit about winning. They could care less. They could care less. All they care about, as Sam Hinkie said in his farewell opus, the letter he wrote, the open letter that was about 20 pages long, all they care about is separating the fans of the Delaware Valley from their wallets. That's it. So, who's going to coach that team now? I know who I hope does not coach them, and that's Jay Wright. I love Jay Wright. Jay Wright has brought me 2 college championships at a team I like, which is Villanova. Something I would have thought would have been impossible. I mean, Villanova is a nice little mid-major kind of team. He's made them into a national power. He could be one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time if he just stays there. If he gets wrapped up in that Sixers mess, he's just going to be another failure, because not even Jay Wright can fix that team. Joshua Harris at some point will step in and fuck it up. So please don't do it, Jay Wright. Just stay put. Just the money's, don't do it for the money. God, man. I know they'll throw a ton of money at you, but it's not worth it, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let them hire Tyronn Lue. Fine. You know, take it. Oh, fine. Whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. As long as Joshua Harris is in charge of this mess, they're not going to win. They're not going to win. And if you want to learn anything from this, non-Philadelphia fans, if you stayed with us this long, just bet against this team. Wait till it matters and bet against them. They're free money. Free money. Free money betting against this team. Okay, that's all I got for that. I mean, do I feel satisfied that the Sixers got swept by the Celtics? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Does that make me not a Sixers fan? Does that make me bad? I don't think it makes me bad. It just makes me, I just feel a little bit vindicated. I feel a little bit vindicated that these guys got what was coming to them. So, do I dislike Joel Embiid? I'm starting to. I'm starting to. Do I dislike Ben Simmons? Starting to, a little bit. You guys have been in town a long time. Do your job. Do your job. You're getting paid a fortune. Win some games. but, you know, I don't expect you to because you got bad management. But, you know, very good. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you listening to my rant. I apologize. I don't apologize. Why do I do it? Everybody apologizes too much. I don't apologize for anything. I don't apologize. That's my life. I don't apologize for taking care of my family. So there. All right, thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you again.